we got to run our own race.
Mm.
For me, best thing I ever did was quit school. But for somebody else, that could be a decision that would ruin their life. So I think what we have to do is analyze our goals, analyze our mission, our vision, and our values, and what helps me the best.
Yeah. Welcome back to another episode of the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. Landry Fields. I'm excited for my new friend, but I've been following him on social medias for several years, and has had his footprint in a lot of different places in his life already. And so I'm really excited to talk about his experiences so far in life and business and everything that we might get into today. So without further ado, introduce Dylan Ballard to the Keys to the Commonwealth podcast. Appreciate you coming.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, like you said, I've had my footprint in a lot of things. Yeah. I really appreciate you having me on here with you guys do a lot of cool stuff. I follow your stuff on social media. I saw you've had some really cool guests.
Yeah.
A few that I've met along the way and stuff, and I'm excited to be on today. Like you said, I do a couple different things. My day-to-day job is I'm the team leader and CEO for Keller Williams Legacy Group here in Central Kentucky.
Yeah.
Last year we were blessed to finish number one in units sold for MLS, which serves 33 counties, including Fayette, Madison, some of the bigger ones.
Right.
We were blessed to be able to finish number one in units sold, and then I also, the one that most people know me for, is I cover the Kentucky Wildcats. Take pictures, do post-game interviews, follow them along, do a lot of social media content for A Sea of Blue that's with SB Nation, and then I also am the Next Steps pastor at my church.
Yeah.
So I stay pretty busy. My wife, a lot of people will be like,
yeah.
What's your husband do? And she's like, how long do you have?
So what time is it?
Yeah,
where is he at right now?
Where's he at right now? If it's a Tuesday in November, he's at Rupp Arena. If it's Wednesday, he's at church. If it's Thursday, he's probably at a real estate meeting. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's different. My life runs at a different speed because of the things that I do, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like oftentimes, people look at me and go, "You're too busy," and I go, "No, I'm too busy for you." Or for what you want out of life. And not that I'm doing more or anything like that from anybody. No, I'm just busier than most people want to be.
Sure.
But
there's seasons of life too, as far as like I was much busier when in my 30s, and I'm just moving over to the 40 here fairly soon, and I'm like, you know what, now I feel like I want to slow down a bit now.
Yeah, it's all about what you want out of life.
Oh yeah.
And for me, it's people say you're too busy. No, I'm too busy for you. The things I'm doing, if I ever start to slip on like what is expected out of me in any of those areas, I'll drop one. But for now, I enjoy it. Like when it snowed the other day, and or a couple weeks ago, and we were all stuck in the house. It got to noon, and I told my wife, I said, "This is miserable."
Yeah.
Like, how do you do this every single day?
Yeah.
And I know like
that
she's at home with the baby and stuff, and like that's that's the tough job, right? And she's the rock star.
100%.
But I did look at her at noon and go, "This is miserable. How do you do this?"
Yeah.
We're on day 2.
So let's back up a little bit in the sense that where you came from and started from, like where did you originate from as far as in Kentucky, and then kind of you have obviously a unique story of being very entrepreneur minded that kind of led you into some of these things, especially the real estate side, where you never really had done the real estate side of things and so forth. That I wanted to touch base on in that capacity. So where were you born, raised here?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Berea, Kentucky. Yep. I went to Madison Southern High School, and then I went on.
That's not the spaceship looking one, is it?
No, that's Berea Community.
Berea Community.
Yeah, right up the road.
Okay.
And I went there, and then went on. Went to school in Lexington here, and then got about halfway through and was like, man, I'm going to switch over to Eastern. And then I'm going to throw everybody for a loop. Okay. About halfway through my junior year, I was like, I was getting a business degree, right?
Sure.
Kids stay in school. I'm just telling my story. I was like, if my goal is to be a business owner, this degree is going to do nothing for me.
Yeah.
So my dad owned a business.
Just go be a business
owner. Yeah, and so my dad owned a business.
Yeah.
And for a year and a half, 2 years, I just dropped it, went and worked right down on the concrete company that was very successful. So I just said, just want to work for my dad for a year and a half, and was like, show me when you're making a bid, why you're making a bid that way. Show me, like, those meetings you do at the place you like at that with that contractor that you do most of his work for, like how are you nurturing that relationship? Because my dad's like an old school dude that like didn't graduate high school and is one of the most successful people I know. Like it's like what's making you
I
successful?
think there's more to that aspect now, especially of learning and just doing stuff, man.
And I love school, right? And you need it. And education, go get your education, especially in certain fields.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I learned more in that year and a half, 2 years, just following my dad saying, like, why do you do this?
Yeah.
Why do you do that? Why is it more important for you to go have that conversation than stay over here than frame this board for, like, an extra 5 minutes?
Yeah. And with my kids, I'm realizing that with my kids, it's about that, too. I think it's the idea of curiosity that I never want, that I think if the human race was to lose its sense of curiosity, we'd be far less well off to do, because you don't ask the questions why, or you don't ask the questions of how maybe I could do that type of scenario, or how does this work type of thing. And those things are what I think empower us to have a learning mentality of always trying to figure out new things and learn and push ourselves type of scenario. So totally agree.
Yeah, and so like I said, I hope everybody like gets what they want out of life. I'm big on like run your own race. Like we're recording this podcast the day after Florida won the national championship. Right. And I was thinking last night, like Walter Clayton Jr. was on top of the world last night for those who follow sports. And 4 years ago or 5 years ago, Walter Clayton Jr. was the backup point guard at Iona, getting 6 minutes a game.
That's right.
But then I also get on social media because I have, quite a bit of followers on there for people for my UK stuff. And my messages are full of like, why is Mark Pope not getting this 5-star guy like our season's over? And I'm like, we just saw a dude rule the college basketball world. It was the backup point guard at Iona. Mm-hmm. And I say that not to get into a sports take. I say that to think, we got to run our own race. For me, best thing I ever did was quit school. But for somebody else, that could be a decision that would ruin their life. So I think what we have to do is analyze our goals, analyze our mission, our vision, and our values, and what helps me the best.
Yeah.
Like one of my best friend is a pharmacist, and he has a great life. He's one of the lead pharmacists at the VA. Quitting school for him would have been a disaster.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me, quitting school is the best thing I ever did. So I'm big on just run your own race and figure out what you want out of life and just fill in the gap. Do whatever you got to do to make that happen.
I think a good pairing with the run your own race is I've gotten into watches lately. People don't get into watches because I bought a box that was like, I'm all right, it's going to commit. It can only hold 4 watches, right? And I'm going somewhere with this. And I was like, so that way I only buy 4 watches. Of course, what happened? Before I knew it, I blinked and I had 6 watches. And I was like, crap, well now I got to get a bigger box. Anyway, I got into some watches, and that led me to this guy. He has this whole watch brand, but his whole slogan is "Love Your Journey," and I think that goes well with the whole run your own race. Run your own race, but also love the journey that you're on. In the sense that, like him being the backup, you got to appreciate where you are, where you've been, to kind of appreciate where you are, realizing that you can never just fast forward through the steps that to get where you want to go in life. There's always going to be the steps that you have to take that you can't skip out on, and you have to end up going through those.
Yeah, and it's just like we said, it's different for every person.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walter Clayton Jr. wins the national championship after being a backup guard at Iona. Cooper Flagg for Duke is going to be the number 1 pick and be worth 50, 60 million overnight in just a few weeks, right? And this dude's a 5-star who skipped his senior year of high school, who should be a senior in high school.
Right.
And
everyone's on race.
Yeah, you got to run your own race. It's 2 different paths, but they're both about to end up in the NBA being millionaires, right?
Yeah.
And it took 2 different paths to get there, but like you said, it's just all about the journey and enjoying the journey. And man, my thing is, I've learned in leadership is never taking a step for granted. My wife says that she thinks I've got a lot of bad qualities. We all do, right? But my wife says
and marriage will point those out.
Marriage will point those out. But my wife said that she thinks my greatest quality, she said this yesterday to me, is I don't ever take one conversation for granted. Not one. I was sitting in a restaurant last night in Lancaster, Kentucky that was as big as this studio we're sitting in almost. I mean, there wasn't 5 tables in it. And there was old farmer sitting there. And he said, he just looked at me and was like, you got to try the cannoli. And I said, well, I'm about to sound real weird to this dude. It's like, well, me and my wife got weird diets. I wasn't going to say to a farmer, I'm gluten-free. I was raised on a farm. That dude would look at me and say, like, what's that mean?
Right.
And I was like, he's like, no, I'm telling you, it'll be worth your stomach hurting, brother. And I was like, and I said, all right, I'm gluten-free, so I don't ever eat that kind of stuff. And I tried it, and it was amazing. But after that, me and this dude had this conversation. Before I knew it, like, he's giving me some value about this area, about, like, where he was raised, where he was, like, what he grew up on, like, what makes this area special to him. Before I know it, me and my wife are looking up on Google the top local restaurants in Lancaster, Kentucky, so we can come back because of the conversation I just had with this dude.
Yeah.
And then we're talking, and he's telling me about this piece of real estate that he needs to sell. And then I don't even sell real estate still. He's been the leader of our company, and I'm like taking down notes, and I'm like, I'll get one of my agents to call you, and then like it all started from a cannoli that I don't even normally eat.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing I'll take away is like, I don't take an opportunity for granted, and no matter what it is. Like, my wife will say, like, you go to eat in Richmond or Lexington, you better be planned on 2 hours because Dylan's going to talk to every person in there. Mm-hmm. But for me, that's an opportunity. Every conversation is an opportunity for me to either grow, gain perspective, or create more opportunity from the conversation. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing that I've learned in life is I live a different life, all the different things I do. But that's my biggest thing is like I don't take one conversation for granted.
Right. That's awesome. And I assume it was a lot of fun this year as far as the basketball team.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like that in different culture. And it seems like everything we think we're seeing is probably how it really is behind the scenes as opposed to probably a lot of years behind it in the past in that sense.
Yeah.
Without getting into any.
Yeah. We'll keep that stuff off the record. But it's, for me, what makes Kentucky basketball.
Yeah.
What Kentucky basketball is those moments to where we saw with Mark Pope at that press conference. Mm-hmm. Like everything that you think this fan base is, they're more. In the last few years, we got away from that, and like not taking a dig at our last regime. I love our last regime.
Just felt like there was a disconnect.
There was a disconnect in the last since COVID. There was a disconnect.
Yeah.
See, because that's the same regime though that I was a kid in 2012 standing at the airport with my face up against the fence and Darius Miller letting me touch the title because I grew up a fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I was, I was 15 years old or 12, 13, 14 years old, whatever it was in 2012, like standing up there. And then me and my family run and go get in the car. And as fast as we could, we end up at the top of the building at Rupp Arena as they roll the bus in 2012 and bring the title.
Oh, I was there.
And I was there, and it was amazing, right? So it's the same regime, but along the way there was a disconnect.
Yeah.
And this year, it was one of us coaching the team. And everything that you see on camera, and like that moment in 2012 that made Kentucky fans crazy, we saw it at that press conference. Yeah. Well, I got there at that press conference that day. I got there 2.5 hours before they opened the doors.
I so wanted to go, by the way, and I was like, I knew it was going to be something special, and we was like, well, it's been a long weekend, and we didn't, and then my wife and I were like, man, we should have gone.
Yeah, so, been around this fan base enough. I said, it's going to be special. I called my mom, I called my brother, they're like, I'm busy. I called a dude from my church, and I said, you got to go.
You got to get here.
And they were like, they're only going to have 6,000 seats. I said, I'm here. They'll open more.
Yeah.
And I said, you got to go. And they went, and that day, that same fan base, we were back.
Yeah.
It felt like 2012. I know we hadn't won a title.
Right.
But that was full.
We all felt like we were a family again.
We were a family again. There wasn't, should we get rid of this guy? Should we not? Yeah. Should we this? Should we that? No, it was, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, Mark Pope wasn't any of our first choice.
No.
And I was a little outraged when they hired him. I'm going to be honest. I had some tweets I had to delete. Yeah. And I told Mark Pope that. I was like, man, I'm sorry. Yeah. There might be some stuff out there I probably shouldn't have said. And I wasn't even born in 96 when you were here. I told him that one day. I was like, I wasn't even born in 96 when you were here running things.
Well, this is the brand new studio we had right behind you. Technically, I pulled it. It was tucked into the corner of my parents' storage part of their basement, like not even a finished part, just hidden in a corner is a signed basketball from Ricatina from like that 96, 97 era, and I was like, I think we can pull this back out again. Like I'll put it here in the studio.
So I mean, we saw how special the fan base was that day.
Yeah.
And then it still had to be proven on the court. And I think the biggest thing for Mark Pope, and not because of who they were, not because it was some Super Bowl or anything like that, but winning that Duke game really showed everybody we were back.
I almost went back and watched it. I'm like, how did we win that game?
Yeah,
actually,
and I was on the court
yeah.
That night, and it was just special. I went back in right outside the locker room, and it was special.
Because we hadn't really won we hadn't won a game against the top team in a long time.
You know, we beat Alabama the year before, and that was cool. But like we hadn't won in the Champions Classic since Tyrese Maxey in the Garden, and it was time. But getting to what you originally asked about, because I could talk about that for days. And I could talk about we beat
your own podcast. Yeah, talk about this too.
Yeah, and we beat Florida, and that just won the title.
Right.
And those wins were special. There were some losses that were struggles, but the big thing was we were all a family again. And the big thing was for me, I think it was one of the funnest or the most fun things ever, getting to see all those top NBA dudes play here. Like that was a blast. But I think this year was special because those dudes, it really did mean something for them to wear that Kentucky jersey. Mm-hmm. And it meant something to them that they had that opportunity. I mean, the biggest person for me that represented that was Ainsley Almanor this year. You're talking about the ninth guy when the team was healthy.
Mm-hmm. Playing way less minutes than he had the year before.
And the dude won us games. But 24/7 Sports had him ranked as the 847th best transfer.
I didn't realize
that. And the dude's winning us games.
Yeah.
And he won us that Mississippi State game, hit 3 threes in a row. At Tennessee, that dude won us that Tennessee game, hit 4 threes in a row. And that dude was just, every single post game, he was talking about how much of an honor it was to wear that Kentucky jersey. So everything you saw on screen, everything you heard Mark Pope say, the pain that you heard in his voice in those press conferences, when he walked off those stages, that's what we saw backstage.
And to tie this into business in a lot of ways, it's clear that there's a lot of, I think, qualities and things you can take from him and the way he leads in any part of life and business, etc., in the sense of that he's so empowering of individuals to say, you can do this. I believe in you to do this type of scenario. And, when you have that kind of backing behind you and that tailwind behind you kind of pushing you along, you're like, oh, he's saying I can do this. I think I can do this. And somebody's not going to just like rip me or fire me or do whatever just because I made a mistake here or there. Be like, no, I believe that this is who you are, and that probably takes into a whole faith thing that we won't go into. But like, this is who you are. Like, you can do this.
Yeah, and for me, perception is reality. Oftentimes, we have this truth, which is the truth, right? But what the perception of others is the reality. I told somebody that the other day. Your influence is what others think of you, and you can be like, well, I know this is truth. Well, my job is to do the best that I can to portray an image of Christ, a man of integrity, a man of character to everyone else. I may be at home the best guy you've ever known, but if my wife's the only person that sees or knows that, then I really don't have much influence, right? And why I say perception is reality, but if you perceive me, and not like some big front, I mean, I have to do it because eventually if you front that, people are going to see it. But if that's who you are to everyone, that's the reality. And for me with Mark Pope and this team, it's been that way. And like you said, he empowers his dudes. Like when he walks up to the presser, they're like, after a big win, they're like, Mark, give us an opening statement. He's like, how about you let Otega give us an opening statement? Like, you don't see other coaches do that. And he's empowering them. Almost empowers them too much. Sometimes I'm like, dude, what are you doing playing that dude right now? He is not ready for this stage yet. But like, that's the fan in me coming out. I'm sitting on that court. I'm like, what's he doing playing right now? We're down 3. But getting into business, faith at all, I think how clear his mission, vision, and values are, the BBN's behind him.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. That blowout that they had, if you're not a sports fan, just stick with me. They got blown out by a decent Ole Miss team. Blown out.
Yeah.
Alabama's a great team, but they got beat by 30 with 20,000 UK fans that had traveled to Nashville. They got beat at Texas when Texas did not play good. But when I talk to 99% of Kentucky fans, they talk about how special this year was.
Yeah.
And I think it's the fact that he makes them feel a part of it. It's the fact that he was staying after every single game until every single fan got an autograph.
Insane.
I would stay writing articles for 2 hours, and he would still be there signing autographs. And when I would leave, and like years past, and not comparing regime to it, like when I would leave, it would be 2 or 3 media members left. Now there's still a line of 100 fans left, and he's staying till every one of them. Kobe Bryant would do the same thing. He'd come out and sign every autograph that he could. And to me, because he had the people behind him, because his mission, his vision, his values were clear, that people were willing to excuse a couple losses.
Sure.
And because when the lights were brightest, now there was a couple even lights were brightest moments, that Arkansas game, this last Tennessee game where he failed.
Yeah.
But there's grace in that because you took people to mountaintops, and you also made it clear where you're going, where we're taking this thing.
Yes. And
people are behind you. And I think that happens in business. And 2, you talk about empowering people. Life's about the right who's, I think.
Okay.
And I think that if I have the right people in place, they can take something and go with it and run with it.
Yeah.
My boss, or my owner of Keller Williams Legacy Group, Dana Gentry, the best leader I've ever met, says that systems, they save yourself time, energy, money. And you got to have systems in place. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the right person facilitating that system, it's not going to work.
No.
And if you don't have the right person wearing that jersey, it's not going to work. Because humans are humans, and it's not all plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to,
there's always human emotion involved.
There is.
So therefore, there's always.
And if I want to take my business to the next level, if I want to take my church to the next level, church is a different thing because it's all about the way the Spirit moves. It's all about finding those core values. But once you have those things established, to grow, because growth's my thing.
Yeah.
Whenever I reach a point in a business where I don't think it can grow anymore, because that's what wakes me up in the morning. How am I going to grow something? I'll sell the thing and get out of it.
Yeah.
People look at it as like, if you sell something, you failed. Now, I've sold multiple businesses, got out of multiple businesses because I was like, I've hit a ceiling on how much I can grow here. I want to go do something else, because what gets me up in the morning is how am I going to grow something? And I think when you're wanting to expand a business venture, when you're wanting to expand a sports sector, when you're wanting to expand anything, it's about the right who's around you. And for a while, you may be the right who, because you may have to run a business or a sports website or a church by yourself for a minute. Mm-hmm. But when it's time for expansion, it's not as much about the right systems, and those are important, but it's about the right who to facilitate that system, the right person. So I think for me, I've made those bad decisions of like, man, I hired the wrong person, and it just didn't grow, and you can tell pretty quick. But then I've also made a hire of like, I had this dude on my team once when I was running a moving company, and I just looked at him, and we were doing a lot of furniture delivery, where we'd come to furniture stores, load stuff up, wrap it up, take it to people's houses. The furniture company would give us a list of the places to go. And we were still moving houses, we were still doing clean outs, we were still doing all that stuff. But I looked at him and said, make this your own, because me running it at 25% is not going to get any better. And he just took it and had a system around it. They were getting it done quicker. I was making more money. Paying him a couple extra dollars on the hour was nothing to what he was just taking ownership over it.
Yeah.
And without him, that would have never grown, because I was so stretched that it was
all
time.
about, like you're saying, it's about what our skill sets, and that a lot of times we don't even realize the skill sets we have, and the failures, like when I have kids, it's like you see them fail at stuff, and you're like, I don't get discouraged, because I'm like, I need them to know what failure is like and how to build from that, and that you learn through those, because you're never usually learning in the successes. You're always learning in the failures that lead to the successes, obviously.
If you're going to fail forward.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to fall, it's not about how many times you fall. And people say it's about how many times you get back up. It's really not. It's how do you get back up. When you get back up, are you getting back up stronger and faster and quicker and better? Like when you recover, like we've seen baseball players come back from a Tommy John surgery better than they were before, because it's like they needed some repair. So if you're going to fall, when you get back up, let's see, how do we learn? Because like you said, that's where I failed.
Have you ever seen that Francis Chan balance beam analogy?
I need to
You
watch
gotta go
that.
watch this after. And it's applicable for business here. It's like that. But it's that he kind of portrays the idea of like, what if you're at the Olympics and the girl doing the balance beam goes up for her part of it to try to do the best she can, right? But instead of doing, the crazy backflips and things that they can do on the tiny edge that you could easily fall off of, and even in the Olympics they still do, what if instead just huddled down, grabbed the horse, I think it's called a horse something, right? The balance beam itself, and just held on so she didn't fall off, and then at the end of her time just kind of slid off, put her hands up in the air, boom, I finished. I didn't fall. And you're like, the judges are like, what am I? The judges, we would be like, what am I supposed to do with that? But the reality being, he's trying to point to is like, we're gonna fall.
Yeah.
You're gonna fall off the balance beam. It's gonna happen. You're
For
never
sure.
gonna be perfect at not falling off the balance beam. That's not the goal. Is to not fall. The goal is to still always do your best and get back up and continue to try to do more and more of your best.
I love that, because in life we see so many times people fail and they quit. I was in a meeting one time, church, and like if you pastor a local church, and we have a lead pastor, senior pastor that's way better at this than me, but local church, sometimes you become a counselor, a friend, you know what I mean? Like a mover, you can become like, you just like everything at a local church, right? And they were looking at me, and they'd been through the most tragic thing I'd ever heard of. Like, it's so tragic. Like, I don't even really, like, it's hard to talk about the specifics of it. We were 5 years into that. And they were still working a dead-end job. They were still working. They were still not trusting. Like, a lot of good men had come into, me and my wife were consulting this person. A lot of good men had come into her life, and she'd push them away because of trust issues, right? And I looked at her. And I said, I love you, and we are here for you. But you're either going to use this as an excuse to be beat down for the rest of your life, or you're going to use it as motivation to be better. And I said, I'm not negating or neglecting how tragic this was. But what I'm doing is telling you, that person that caused this pain doesn't care about you. They're not losing any sleep at night. But you're letting this dictate your entire life. And we're either going to use this, like I said, to stay down, or a way to say, I'm going to be an overcomer.
I'm going to run my race.
And I'm going to run my race. I'm going to realize that not all men are like that man. Not all people are like that person. Not all opportunities are going to be a failure like that one was, right? And I said, there may still be some healing, but we're going to start using this as a reason, as a leverage point to say, I'm going to do better in life. And since then I saw this person. It was a hard conversation, because that's where growth is, right? Is in hard conversations. And I saw this person, they own their own business now. They're married to the best person I know. I mean, they have beautiful family. They're helping others. They teach classes at church how to overcome. Like, they lead small groups, and like, because we use that as motivation, and like the failure or the hurt or stuff maybe not even my fault. How am I going to get better? Because
we're all going to have scars.
We are. And like, man, if I look back, I tried to get into leadership at like 18 years old. Like, this is what I've wanted to do my whole life, right? And man, I failed.
It's like being a marriage counselor.
It's like, man, I made some stupid mistakes. I look back and I still be like, why'd I say that? Like, you know what I mean? Like 10 years later, like, why'd I do that?
Right.
Why did I put my time there? Why did I put my energy there? But now I'm super confident in who I am. And there's probably some relationships that people are still like, God, he was dumb. You know what I mean? Right. But now I'm at the point where God's put me in a place where I'm blessed to have influence. And I learned from those. At 18, 19, 20, I was not ready for, you're talking about my social media platforms.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for 1 million Twitter impressions a month at 18, because I would have said some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't ready for the, last month we were blessed with like our Facebook page being at like 2 million interactions. And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, like, be satisfied, be confident in where you're going and not just where you're at right now. Because at those places, when I was trying to do it, instead of just letting it come to me and just running my goals and race, like, I was not ready for that at 18, 19, 20 years
Yeah.
old. Like, I would
But
have
you were
posted
very-
some
'cause you were
stupid
very-
stuff. Like,
Because you're a very entrepreneur at that age, and then to kind of wrap up a little bit of your story. I mean, you had started multiple businesses, and into where you're at now with the real estate stuff. But like you probably would say like you're not really a true like real estate person in that sense. And so
I've never sold a piece of real estate.
right? But you work in real estate like heavily, as well as talking about failure, where you kind of like quit other businesses, which some people would be like, oh, well, he probably failed, or he's failed because he quit those businesses or sold them or whatever. But talk just a little bit about real quickly what you kind of started and what led you into where you're at now, as far as learning skill sets and a role that you were kind of prepared for. You had no idea what he was.
Like all my mistakes, failures, all that stuff. Like it leads you to where you're at today. And so when I got out of school, I was working for my dad, and I told him, I was like, I'm gonna start my own business. And for me, starting my own business wasn't like I've met people. And I've met people, and they'll be like, "What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
And they'll be like, like some.
Is that the worst question when you're like graduating high school?
Yeah, it's
what do you want to do with your life? You're like, I have to know right now.
No, you don't. That's the no, you don't. That's the answer. But like somebody one day was like, "What do you want to do?" And they're like, "I want to own a boutique." I'm like, why? Because I like clothes. Well, do you like managing employees for $8 an hour that are high school students that don't want to show up on time? And if there's a good party, they're not going to come to work. Do you like having to come stuff packages at 6 a.m. before you open up? Do you like having to make sure you stay on the latest trends and not just what you like, because you're not selling to you, you're selling to hopefully hundreds of thousands of people.
Inventory.
Yeah. Do you like managing inventory? Do you like being a finance manager? No, that sounds awful. Well, you probably don't want to own a boutique. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Valid questions that people don't.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah.
But for me, so when my dad said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to go fill a gap because I want to be a business owner."
Yeah.
And I saw there was a gap. A lot of great moving companies out there. I saw there was a gap for a moving company. We were super successful, honestly. Just looking back, success. I'm a connector. I love talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
I love making connections. It probably grew a little faster than it needed to, if I'm being honest. And that's hard reality to hear. But man, I don't know if I was ready for as quick as it grew.
Mm-hmm.
And the connections were quick and good, but it was a lot, right?
Yeah.
But we ironed them out. We were super successful. Off that, we saw a need for a cleaning company. We started a cleaning company. At one point, we were cleaning 100 Airbnbs a week, and the moving company was doing great with, we were doing clean outs a lot with trash outs left over.
Yeah.
We were still moving homes. We were doing furniture deliveries for furniture companies. And we just grew and grew and grew. And I wasn't even from Lexington, and we were growing in Lexington. I was making connections, and we were blessed. And then I got a little too busy probably, and I was like, man, I just didn't love it anymore, right? And it wasn't the business that I didn't love. It was the fact that I didn't manage my time well. And I looked at it and I said, I'm learning from this. And we were still making money.
Mm-hmm.
But because here's the thing that people have to realize, man. You can make money. That's one thing. But money can't be your motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Heard Dana, the owner of Keller Williams Legacy Group, say this once, and I loved it. Said, me as a Christian, me as a business owner, me as who I am as a person. Because at that time I was focused on the money. She said, you got to look at it like a water pipe. A water pipe like a city water pipe leads to millions of homes to where everybody can have water in their homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people don't look at it as a wet water pipe. What they look at it as a distribution center. And financially, what I have to do is be able to want to create opportunity for others as a business owner, want to see other lives fulfilled because of what I'm doing, want other people to be financially blessed, and me to be able to teach from what I've learned. And so now I look at things of then I was focused on money. Now I'm focused on being a water pipe and teaching others, helping others, seeing others, coaching people to be a better version of themselves, to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
But then just like that water pipe, I'll get wet in the process. Right, if I'm doing the right things, money will come.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot in those businesses that money was my motivation then, but I wasn't happy. I got to a point where I would stay up at night because I knew the quicker I went to sleep, the faster I went to sleep, the quicker I had to go back to work. And at that point, I said, as good as I am at this, I can't do that anymore. So I was praying to God, like, we're making all this money. People will think I'm crazy if I shut this thing down. I said, open up a door that only you can open and no man can close. That was my prayer. I prayed that once before, too, to God. And he did something else for me. I'll get into just a second that changed my life. But I knew if I prayed that, God would do it. Because he knows me. Because as Christians, we have a relationship.
It's brave to pray a prayer of like, I don't know maybe I don't know what I want is not what I actually need type of scenario. And praying that prayer is kind of
and I called a real estate agent and I said, it's with a different real estate company. And said, if you hear of anything I'm looking, she's like, you're looking for what? Like, you do every Airbnb install in the city of Langston. Yeah. You clean everything. You do more trash outs than anybody. Like, you're making all this money, have all these connections, do UK sports. Like, what are you looking for? I was like, I don't know. I'm just looking. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's like, I know you're super close with Dana Drenchery, and this is a person with a different real estate company. Yeah. She's like, y'all are the same person. Just call her and see if there's any opportunity out there. So I called Dana, and she was busy like always, and I texted her, like, you'll want to call me. And I just called her, and I said, if you hear of any opportunities out there, and she gave the same thing, opportunities for what? But like, just hear of any opportunities, it's me that's looking, not somebody else. Yeah. She called me back 2 days later and said, are you serious about this? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I've been praying, and I just moved to South Carolina, and I need somebody to run my business. I said, I've never sold real estate. And she said, like, some stuff to me, and like along the lines of, I think in business, people want to, in a field, move somebody to run a business, like a real estate agent. Like a lot of people had tried in the role that she was looking for, not her. Like, put a real estate agent in there. They're good at sales. They're not good at, like, and some of them are good at running business. Like at Keller Williams, our goal is to make them learn how to run a business and not just sell real estate. Right. But they're good at selling real estate and running that business. But running the business side of running a brokerage
is different.
Is a different skill set. And she said, I've watched you run a business so effectively. You can come run my business if you want to. And it was the best decision I've ever made. Because I'm now around people who want to learn how to run a business. I can coach people how to run a business. I can have agents knocking on my door every day saying, how do I do this? How do I fix this? So I'm not just selling real estate, but I'm running
a world where everybody's kind of running their own business a little bit.
Yeah, they're all independent contractors, every one of them, and they're all running their own business under our window. And instead of me worried about if we're going to move this many boxes into this, and there's people that do that from here to there moving, is who I recommend now, man.
Or worried about how many closings you're going to do as a real estate. You're not having to worry about that.
I'm not worrying about that. But what I am doing is my skill set is coaching. Yeah. My skill set is teaching others. Empowering. I'm getting to be that water pipe to, like, change this, this, and this in your business. Oh, okay, they changed this, this, and this. A conversation with one of my agents the other day, and he had like 3 closings the year before. Well, right now he's got 11 under contract right now, and he's already closed like 25 this year, right? And he's like killing it.
Crazy year to do that.
He's crazy, dude. He's going nuts. He's not even from here. And just a couple conversations with him, and it's not me, it's all him. Sure. But like keeping him plugged in, keeping him going, like that. Just getting to make those little things, and it's all him doing the work. But like getting to encourage him every day. Getting to see that's being that water pipe, and that fills my cup. Oh, like, and then when I go home at night, I know
the success of people you're helping coach or work with or build up is more fulfilling than anything.
Yeah, and I'm getting to live this life that I love because of opportunity that was presented to me because I was willing to learn when I failed in that other business. And when I got out, we were making more money than we'd ever made. But guess what? At night, now, I'm not sitting there like, I'm going to stay working on stuff because I don't want to get up and go to work in the morning. At night, I'm sitting there playing with my son, going out to dinner with my wife at a local Italian restaurant, right? Or like, and I'm enjoying life now. Yeah. And I'm making money still, like, right? Because I use my experiences to leverage opportunities, and I'm still blessed. And I have more time, and I can use my skill sets. Me and my wife were in a subdivision the other day. like, and we're talking to these people about buying some houses off of them and doing some flips, and we're doing this together, right? And we're loving it. And I'm as happy as I've ever been. And at first, people thought I was crazy, but now I'm still making more money than I've ever made. And like, people have this weird thing where they don't want to talk about money, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
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 But like, in the church, especially,
yeah.
we got to. And like, you got to quit. Like, and in the family, and the best thing my family ever did was my dad was willing to have hard conversations about money with me, because it wasn't this taboo thing. It's a tool to be able to bless others.
Yep.
And it's a tool to be able to do things.
I was talking to my wife about that the other day, in the sense of like, you know, there's just like you said, there's this huge faux pas sometimes of like having money as, say, Christian or whatnot, where it's like, well, I'd rather be, if I have the capabilities in a country that affords me an opportunity to do so that most do not have in the world, to then be able to leverage that for good in capacities. Like, what shouldn't I therefore do that type of thing? Because most people won't even, in those countries, won't even have the opportunity if they wanted to.
Yeah, and like,
so that we have here.
And like, let's use that money, like, you know, running a real estate brokerage the size we do, our owner Dana, I talk about her so much, but she's changed mine and my wife's life. And like, I see her creating opportunity for other people all the time, and not just like, and I see her do it. I've seen her take money out of her purse and just give it to people. Like, I've seen her do those acts as well. But the thing I admire most about her is she finds a way to create opportunities for people to where that changes their life.
Teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish. If I catch 2 fish today so I can feed you, you'll be full today.
Yeah.
But if I teach you how to fish, you'll be full for the rest of your life.
That's right.
And I watch her do that. And so like, I've been telling my wife, let's do that. Like, I had a couple young dudes over from the church the other day that's 18, and I was like, they were like, I'm going to go buy my perfect home. I came into some money, and it's like, or
that'll be fine for today.
That's fine for today. Or let's buy a house that's a little run down. Your dad owns a construction company. Let's fix that house up. Then we've got some equity.
That's right.
And then when it comes time to where we've got a little more equity than we think, you know what we can do? We can go buy another house that needs fixed up. Fix it up, rent it, have rent roll, throw everything back at the principal, and don't take it as a profit. And then before you know it, there's a ton of equity there.
That's right.
And then before we know it, we're 30 years old and we got 10 of those things, opposed to just maximizing what the bank tells you that you can get at 20 years old.
Or if you don't have any of the money, hey, take some years to have a little bit of sacrifice, buying a duplex or doing a secondary unit in your basement as a rent out in type of scenario, almost doing it that way.
And so like, the things that I wish I would have done at 18, 19 years old, because like, I was doing stuff like, you know, renting a nice place in Lexington, doing this, doing that, right? I've always made pretty good financial decisions because my dad had those conversations with me about finances, and my grandfather did. But like, now I want to be able to tell young dudes that. I want to be able to tell like that entrepreneur that's like, I want to start a business, but it's too hard. Like, just start it. There's going to be a grinding season to where you're by yourself, where you're hustling. Like,
you don't want to be a solopreneur forever. But
but
you
like,
need to go through it.
You need to go through it because you learn a lot, and you learn those mistakes.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, start the business. What's the worst that happens? You fail. Like,
exactly.
Like, what's the worst that happens?
Exactly.
Like, low risk, high reward, brother. Like, low risk. So like, for me, I want to help.
You're going to end up much lower than, not that you're low, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're here, like, you probably can't fall.
No.
Fall far.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, if I'm only 2 inches off the ground, there ain't much to go. It ain't going to hurt that hard. So I just want to help people take risk, but take the right risk.
Yeah.
Make opportunity for others. Like, my goal now is no longer, what can Dylan do?
But you have to be looking for it, I think, is the key.
You do.
And if most people are just not looking for it and helping them see, like you said with that guy, like, why don't you start looking for the opportunity or looking for the ways to view this from that long-term goal scenario?
Long-term goals.
Like that.
Yeah, because I wish I would have started. If I'd have started at 20 opposed to just buying a house that I can maximize from the loan officer, I'd be in better shape. Like, I wouldn't be doing this I wouldn't be like at 28, I would be doing this on house number 15 and not house number 3. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? And
for sure.
I think that, so for me, my goals are no longer how much money can I make? How much opportunity can I create for others? How can I seize the opportunity that I'm in right now? And then money will be a byproduct. Yeah. When you make yourself valuable, money will come to you. And then it's just how smart can you be with it. And it's a great tool. Mm-hmm. But if your motivation's money, when you get money, what's next?
Yeah.
Because money will come if you work hard enough. But if you approach it with, I want to do this because I love it. Did I love moving boxes? No. But what I loved was being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What I loved was having flexibility in my schedule. Like I love the new viral meme or video that's going around. It's like what people think owners are, and they're walking in just like throwing the money. It's like, but what owners actually are, and it's the dude like carrying 2 mini fridges over his shoulders, falling out. Nobody's opening the door for him, and he's like,
"We've had to change our work. I've been up at midnight and 1 a.m. multiple nights the last couple of weeks trying to get things done." It's like,
your entrepreneurs like us.
Yeah,
it's what people think is they see you on the beach, but what they don't see is like. Or for me, let's just get real with it. For me, people see me at these away UK games. But what they don't see is during the day, I'm in the hotel rooms, not out seeing the city. I'm in the hotel rooms working on stuff so that I can go to a game at night. Like, and I'm working from a different city. Yeah, there's some flexibility there that I like. Yeah. But there's some trade-off for it. Where, like, before I left, I worked until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. For 3-4 nights, so that I could go. So I could.
I'm playing hard a little bit, but I'm working even harder.
I'm working harder. Yeah. And like too, it's learning and like when you use the opportunities you have, man. I've had so many real estate agents be willing to listen to me, as crazy as this sounds, because they follow me on Twitter for UK stuff, right? Like, and then I'll be like, "Oh, you're Dylan from Twitter." Yeah. I'm like, yeah, but I also am an entrepreneur. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And let me help your business. Yeah. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. Okay, here's a picture of Mark Pope, that I took, and like, like, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Okay, now let's sit down and see how I can help you with your business. Yeah. Because I want to use everything that I can to help everybody that I can. So like the Kentucky stuff, yeah, it's cool and it gets me in a lot of doors, and I love it. Like one time, at one point, there was a disconnect in that fan base that was so big, and I told my wife, I said, I think I don't need to do this anymore.
I feel like you're probably trapped in between them.
I was working too much with the other business, and it wasn't as fun to be around anymore. And the church was in a really big season of growth, and I said, I think I'm going to stop. Yeah. She said, if you stop, you'll never get back in because there's a lot of people that want in that door. I mean, that's a door. That's a door a lot of people want to walk in. Yeah. And she said, don't, because you love it. She said, you're around people all the time at church. You're around people all the time at work. It's your one thing in life that you go sit on that court and you lock in with your camera.
Because you probably aren't going to do it forever, maybe.
No. I got kids coming up, dude. There's going to be a time. Right? There's going to be a time I'll be at his ball game. Yeah. Like, and I won't miss that for the world. Right. Like, there's going to be a time when I have probably a daughter, or I have a son right now. But if I have a daughter, like, I want to be at her softball games. Like, you know what I mean? Opposed to. And I'll probably do it a little bit in some capacity forever, but like...
Although I'm trying to get my kids in basketball so I can stop sitting in the rain and bitter cold, personally.
But like, there'll be a time and a season for that, and she was just like, you're not quitting it. Yeah. Like, and two, that's a big thing. My wife is the best in the world. I know every husband says that on every podcast, but like, behind every successful, happy, joyous dude that is running multiple businesses, there's a wife at home that's locking down the home life. That like, dude, like my wife is like the top of the top. Yeah. She helps run a real estate company, run a real estate business that does transaction coordination from home, and she's also watching our son every day. Yeah. And somehow every single night when I get home, there's dinner made with my lunch packed for the next day, and like there's when I'm walking in to like just throw on a different shirt to go shoot a basketball game, there she's handing me up like a heated up warm dinner to eat on the way, like, and like everything like my wife does like makes it possible for me to do what I do. Yeah. So like I think that's the next biggest thing is like, because in Keller Williams we say God, then family, then business, and if you don't follow that model, you're not going to be successful very long. Like that's on our walls everywhere, and my wife is the key to me being able to do what I do. And two, it takes a special person, right?
And a lot of times it's the biggest why.
It is my biggest why. Like, bro, because before I met my wife, I've never been married before other than her, but like I've been in relationships where I realized quick this person wasn't for me because the speed I run at, it fuels me, man. Like, I don't like sitting at home at night. I don't like I now that I have kids,
Like we weren't made to go to bed. Rested. We were made to go to bed tired.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And like the speed I run at, it would take a special person to do that. Sure. And what we do, it works for us. Mm-hmm. People always say to her, do you get tired of how much Dylan works, or do you get tired of all his different ventures? And like, no, she's like, no, because we get our time together and we time block for that. I make sure my family comes first. Mm-hmm. Like, we time block the first of the month. Me and my wife sit down and make our calendar for the month, and I get our time in first, right? Like, mm-hmm. So there is time block things for us to go do stuff, us to go have times, certain nights that we're having dinner together. But then she also knows, though, when you do run with a person like me, there's a chance that, like, hey, I'm really trying to get this person connected at church. They're going to be here in 5 minutes at our house. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, there's no leftovers. I'm probably going to have to eat out for lunch tomorrow because I got a wife and a husband on their way to come eat dinner with us.
Yeah.
Not very many wives would be okay with that. And mine's like, sounds great. This is an opportunity for us to pour into somebody.
That's right.
And like, so find your person and make sure it's somebody that aligns with your mission, vision, and values. Because my wife is the GOAT.
The race.
Yeah, and then there's trade-off. My wife runs at a heavy speed like me. She's raising the kid at home, helping run a transaction coordination real estate business, and she travels and sings Southern gospel music.
Okay.
So, like, we figure out a way to make it work. Like, I'm going to bid on an auction on a house Saturday, and she's going to buy furniture for, like, another house at IKEA. So, like, and we're not one that passes our kid off all the time, so I was like, okay, so I got to make this work. Like, my parents do help a lot, and they're great. Like, I'm blessed. And like, when you help pastor a church, you got like 500 grandmas, right?
That's right.
But like, we try to do the home thing and keep our kid around us as much as possible. But like, everybody else would look at that and be like, y'all's crazy. But like, for real, she's gonna watch him until I get a little bit through that auction, then drop him off at mom's house, and then I'm gonna go back and get him. And like, we just work with it, right? Yeah. And we don't stress because we know we're working towards the same goals.
We could keep talking another couple hours, I'm sure, but time is precious. And so I appreciate your time in that sense. But I mean, if somebody wanted to reach out, obviously, or find you on social media, what's kind of the best way to plug what you're into these
for
days?
Me, I set my pillars on all my social media, so you're going to get UK stuff, real estate stuff, and church stuff, no matter where you follow me at. But
sure where.
But so let's follow. You can follow me at on Instagram, Dylan_S_Ballard. Or on Twitter, where that's where most people follow me, Dylan Ballard _UK, and then I'm just Dylan Ballard on Facebook, and I'm not as smart enough to get into TikTok yet, but I'll get there.
I haven't done it yet.
I'll get there because I know there's a big audience. I'm missing a connection. But yeah, any of those places follow me. You talked about our podcast. We do Success Stories Unplugged, where and you can find it on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the things, where we sit down with successful individuals and just strictly talk about how they got where they were.
Right.
Our most recent episode was with Kenny Brooks, the women's basketball coach, and we talked about basketball for like 3 minutes, and then the next 50 were, how did he get where he got? Yeah. Because that's what I want to do. I want to be that water pipe, and I want people to realize the race. Like, people see Kenny Brooks or see Mark Pope, like he's getting ready to do one with us, or they see, like I've done some, Nick Mingione, I've done some real estate people on there, and they see the real estate agent selling 215 homes. Or they see Kenny Brooks coaching the women's basketball team. Or they see Mark Stoops 15 years into the UK job. But what they don't see is Mark Stoops is a grad assistant at Iowa making no money.
Yeah.
Or they don't see Kenny Brooks as the assistant having to work 2 jobs so he can be an assistant at James Madison. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's the stuff they don't see. So that's on that podcast, we tell stories like that. They see the real estate agent selling 215 homes. They don't see the real estate agent living in a duplex, barely making it month to month, only selling 2 or 3 houses a year in that first year. So we try to tell stories to motivate people to keep going and do what they can to reach that ultimate goal.
Nice. Well, Dylan, appreciate your time.
Hey, man, I appreciate your time.
And look out for him on social medias, and we will see everybody here in a couple weeks for another episode of the Keys to Commonwealth podcast. Appreciate it, Dylan.
All right, thank you for having me.